I get really weak. I'm not a weak person, but all of a sudden I'm fighting a battle that I can't win.
Antibiotics?
Yeah.
A week ago, Puki Matakovi was lying in hospital. His life was in the balance.
I nearly lost my life in there. I had a sharp pain from here and it went all the way down there, and my heart started racing. And the doctor stayed with me and he held my hand and I blacked out. And then I came to, he goes, "Oh, hello mate, you were 2 seconds from leaving us." He says, "You were 2 seconds away from a massive heart attack."
He's one of almost 80 cases in Melbourne's northwest who've innocuously fallen ill to the respiratory illness Legionnaires' disease.
Short of breath, coughing blood. I cough a lot of blood. So I don't know where that come from. I've never coughed blood before. And if I talk to you for over 10 minutes, I'm out of breath.
So I thought I was going to lose him. I haven't prayed so much in a long time. He means the world. He's my soulmate.
2 people have died, a woman in her 90s and a man in his 60s. The majority of the cases have been hospitalised.
There's obviously been a catastrophic failure with the outbreak that's happening.
When Legionella cases started turning up to hospitals across Melbourne in mid-July, concern turned to rooftops as the potential source of the outbreak, which is now Australia's worst in more than 2 decades.
The outbreak is a bit surprising because the system in Melbourne is meant to be the world-class leading.
Authorities believed a single cooling tower was responsible, but finding which one hasn't been straightforward. Among the more than 2,700 registered cooling towers across Melbourne, they narrowed it down to more than 100 in the industrial zone between Laverton North and Derrimut.
It'll generally be coming out through the top of the cooling tower through vapour that are being extracted out through the extraction fans on cooling towers. You can just breathe in some vapour and you could develop Legionnaires' disease, by just going down to the shops.
Cooling towers are critical for so many large buildings where air conditioning is used. When left untouched, Legionella bacteria flourishes inside of them. Here in Victoria, cooling towers, at a bare minimum, must be disinfected, treated and re-disinfected every 6 months. And over the past 2 weeks, water treatment companies have been flat out.
They'd be run off their feet. Every cooling tower would be contaminated within 24, 48 hours.
From a microbiological point of view, it's bacterial paradise. And to be honest, Legionella grow better in cooling towers than they do in microbiological media.
Dr. Richard Bentham has spent more than 3 decades studying Legionella.
There are cases where it's suggested the aerosol may have moved 10 or 15 or even 20 kilometres from the source.
Outbreaks can often occur in autumn. He says this outbreak, in the middle of winter, is highly unusual.
Continually operating cooling towers that run all year round aren't generally associated with disease because they're continually treated, they're continually chemically dosed, and they're continually maintained. An event has occurred that has caused it to release a large amount of bacteria in a short period.
There was speculation that the intense industrial fire in Derrimut in July might have contributed to the outbreak. Puki's wife, Rita, says he was in the vicinity when he might have contracted Legionnaires.
I went on the diary and backtracked all the days where he worked, and we previously owned a cafe. It's just like metres away from where the explosion was.
Today, Victoria's Chief Health Officer said she's confident the suspect tower has been found.
We've had a detection of the Legionella bacteria on a sample from a cooling tower in Laverton North. This sequencing of this sample will then be compared to the sequencing of human case samples to look for links between this source and our existing cases.
It was a complicated investigation to trace the source of an infection which is having devastating effects.
We know that it is a disease that targets people who are aged over 40. It causes what would resemble quite a bad head cold. But if it gets into the lungs and it causes a pneumonia, it can very quickly become overwhelming and catastrophic.
I'm just waiting on his telehealth call today just to see if we can organise a CT of his lungs because the coughing of blood is a bit worrying.
Legionnaires' disease first popped up in the US in 1976, where a convention for US war veterans, the American Legion, was being held at a hotel in Philadelphia. More than 200 people were infected and 34 people died from the mystery illness dubbed the Philly Killer. After a 6-month investigation, doctors discovered a bacteria, now known as Legionella, in the hotel's air conditioning system had caused the outbreak.
The American Legion is very much like the Australian RSL, so you can imagine the demographic there are elderly males with underlying health conditions, heavy smokers and heavy drinkers, which is basically the risk group for Legionnaires' disease.
Australia's largest outbreak happened in 2000 at Melbourne Aquarium. 125 people were infected and 4 died.
Legionellosis, Legionnaires' disease, is entirely preventable.
It takes a lot to pull me down. I'm pretty strong. But this here, it's just nothing I can't fight. I can't beat this.
You will beat it, hon.
I haven't beaten it so far.